And I'm super excited about my own garden. Actually, the folks at the Green Bay Botanical Garden are really helping me out, but we just got things started and I can't wait to watch it grow. You can go out there and see it. It's a big garden, a nice big sign, and maybe you'll be inspired to plant your own garden. Take a look.
Hey Amy, welcome to your garden.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this. I've got my own garden, and I have to tell you, Mark, I've always wanted to have a garden at home, and I've tried it a couple times, but it just hasn't worked out so well. So I'm hoping you can help me out here.
Oh yeah, we're definitely here to help you out, and we know that you like cooking, so we picked a bunch of different interesting plants, herbs, and vegetables that you can cook with, hopefully too, if they grow, that is, which they should here.
Excellent, and people can come out and see it, and we'll kind of watch the progress along the way. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So let me show you some of the things we have laid out here.
Sounds great. I got my tennies on. Put me to work.
All right, there we go. That's what I like to hear. Amy, here's the troll. It's time to get planting. These are some 4th of July tomatoes, which were one of the ones that produce a crop, the first of all the different tomato cultivars out there. So right now I just laid them about 2.5 feet apart or so. So
is that a good idea, kind of line them all up, see where you want them to be?
Yeah, you can do that, or you can kind of, intersperse them amongst your annuals. You can kind of go however you want to. You don't necessarily have to just make them into rows, but we did here just so that we can do a couple things. What we can do is plant in between the tomatoes, because it takes them a while to get big and grow out. We can interplant an herb like basil, or we can interplant if it's earlier in the season and we're trying to get something the cool season to grow. We can intersperse some lettuce in between there. We can harvest these crops, and once our tomatoes get big and fill in, we just won't worry about them. We'll just call them good, and we got some crop in between our tomato plantings because they take up so much space being so far away. The other thing we can do is stagger our rows. We have these peppers, holy mole peppers, which you can use to make mole sauce. And we're able to put the rows a little closer if we offset them like this and stagger the row. So that's just another tip you can use.
How far down? I never know,
Yeah, the thing about a tomato is it'll produce roots all along its stem. So say you happen to buy one that's not as sturdy as this and it's kind of flopping over. Mm-hmm. To anchor it, you could remove some of these leaves even. And you could plant it like this deep if you wanted to.
Okay.
It'll produce roots all along there and be stronger and anchor itself. And then, you're less likely to need the tomato cage. But it's still not a bad idea to put the cage along there. The other thing you can do with the tomato is pick off some of the leaves, or if you buy one at the store, then it's real kind of gangly and just falling over, and you don't think you need to anchor it for support this way. You can lay the stem along the soil, and it'll actually produce roots all along here that'll help make it a little bit more drought tolerant because it'll have a bigger root system. And you could either stake it up, or sometimes when you buy the floppy ones, they're kind of already fallen over to one side, so they don't really need to be staked, but then you'll have roots all along here, and it might help it a little bit more drought tolerant as well as anchor it. All right, now that we have our tomato in, what we can do is instead of planting the next tomato, why don't we throw some basil in between here?
Pretty color, purple basil.
Yeah, purple Ruffles basil. Not only looks pretty, but it tastes good. Mm-hmm. Now we'll just keep going down the line, Amy. Maybe, throw those 3 or 4 in between.
Okay. About how much space in between? Should I put that one in the middle there?
That might be a little close, maybe 8 or 10 inches between. We can probably fit 2 or 3 in between our tomatoes. That way we get nice big plants that we can harvest before the tomatoes fill in there.
Okay. So one more basil?
Sure. This is a little one called boxwood basil, so it gets to be a little short, small globe kind of. You can even use it for ornamental purposes or making a line or edging in front of a bed. It's really nice.
Pretty.
And it smells so basil-y, it makes you want to eat some pesto.
It does. Great.
Cool.
Okay, what next, Mark?
Well, maybe throw our last tomato in and we'll call it good. Getting to be a professional there, Amy. Might have to put you on staff here. Well, when you plant seeds, it's a good idea just to read the back of the package. But in general, pretty much every seed goes about 2 to 3 times deep as it is wide. So the carrots and things like that are super small. So you can kind of just dig a little bit of a trench. You can either use your hand if you like to get dirty, or you could use a rake. What we like to do is to get a straight line, you can just lay that rake out and then kind of put your hand along there, make a little bit of a furrow or trench, and then just sprinkle the seeds in there. You don't have to worry about getting the right spacing because what you can do is thin them out once they start growing, and then just cover the trench back in lightly and make sure that you water everything really good so that it gets a nice moist area for the seed to take in water and then to germinate. That's the most important thing probably, is once it's planted to make sure that you keep it moist so that everything can germinate properly. And that's the great thing about the spring planting. It kind of Mother Nature takes care of it for you by raining, and then it's cooler so the soil doesn't dry out so fast, which is why these guys like it in the cool season. Well, we have our seeds planted. Now we have a couple more seeds to do, but instead of the little small carrots, these are actually peas. And the thing about them is they like to climb up. So we have this little trellis system. Some people call it a little teepee or a tortour. You can make whatever you want for them to climb up. But because they're vining, if you plant them just in your garden, they'll start climbing all over and taking up a lot of space. So one way, if you have a small garden or even an apartment, is to plant them and then grow them upwards.
Cool.
Yeah, because you could do this even in a container if you had an apartment. You know, if you have the teepee, you just grow it all up. So we have 2 different All-America Selection winners, and if you're in questioning what kinds to buy, those are ones that have been proven to be great throughout the whole country. So they have a lot of selections of vegetables as well as flowers, but this one is called Mr. Big Pea, and the one over by you, Amy, is Sugar Snap Pea.
Oh, my favorite. Love these in salads or whatever. Nothing like fresh peas, you know?
Yeah, I love them. The Sugar Snaps are so delicious.
And the seeds look like kind of dried up peas.
Right, yeah, it is actually.
Okay, there you go.
So what you want to do is just take maybe 3 or 4 and kind of plant them around the teepee so that they can grow right up there. Once they get growing, you can kind of start to train them up, and then they'll start to twine themselves right up that little pole to the top.
So just 3 or 4 of these little guys?
Yep, 3 or 4.
Like that?
Yep,
or
perfect.
5? And cover them up?
6.
6, yeah. I
Yeah.
like a lot of peas there, Mark.
Yeah, then just cover them up and we'll water them in, and once they get growing, they'll be going upward.
I can hardly wait. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, Amy, we have some plants in the ground. Now it's time to give them a little bit of water and start the weeding process, I guess, once they get growing here.
Every day water?
Yep, well, what you can do is, you know, sometimes the top of the soil will dry out, but it'll be moist underneath where your seeds are. So what you want to do is kind of just stick your finger in the ground and see how the soil is. If it's still moist, you don't need to water, but typically with the seeds just starting out, it's a good idea to give them some water every day.
Well, I'm so excited. I can't wait for things to start happening here.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's always exciting to see how a little seed becomes a huge plant, I think.
I can hardly wait. Thank you so much, Mark.
You bet.